So for today's day, I prepared a interesting framework that I've learned from Pellett's book, also linked in the video description. That is the REAP-REACH method to do well with the hiring manager, specifically in a intense interview. And if you've been following my channel, the main takeaway of this method is that with the hiring manager in particular, you should focus on the results. So the better you communicate your results, the better the impression will be with that interviewer in the process. And basically, the acronym of REAP-REACH stands from results. The first one is results, then it goes hand in hand with energy and enthusiasm, and then attitude. So these three are presented also together, because it doesn't only matter how you prepare your results, how you prepare to ensure that you do talk about your results, but also how you communicate those results. Of course, with energy and enthusiasm, that's something that I repeatedly mention on my channel, but also interestingly here, maybe to make a difference between energy and attitude. The energy, is what you showed, your level of energy in a job interview, but the attitude refers more like to how you say it, your inner attitude, or how, to give an example here, how you communicate failures as learnings. That I found particularly also interesting to highlight here. Then the P stands for process. That is, how do you achieve your results? How do you communicate on achieving those results? And it's actually a reverse star answer, if you want. The R being the results, and then the action being the process. So focus on how you communicate on achieving those results. And then the second part of this method refers the rich part is, the first is relationships. That is something actually quite interesting to note as well, is that a hiring manager's challenge or worry when hiring someone is that they wouldn't be someone that will bring a personality conflict in their team, right? So how do you prove that you're not someone who is going to be a personality conflict in your team? You must basically show that you create and maintain relationships. And this is basically how you future-proof yourself on this one. And there's also another way that I also advise people to do, is to ensure that they generate trust. So the more you inspire trust, the better they will feel, the more comfortable they will feel that you're someone who likes building relationships. Now, for more senior types of roles, for example, for sales roles, it will make more sense to talk about also your previous experience building relationships, both specifically externally, but also internally. Whereas, for more, I don't know, a software engineering role, maybe it makes more sense to talk about your relationships internally. But this is the questions on do you work well in teams, and questions about interpersonal skills in general. But relationships is also something you want to focus on highlighting. And notice, the results was the first one in the REAP-REACH model, and the reach begins with relationships. So this is the second most important after results that you must focus on. Then the I, interview the interviewer. That is basically questions for them. And yes, needless to say, this is of course a very, very important step, that it's a smart idea to prepare for in advance. And to give a couple of examples, just 3 examples of questions from the book. Tell me about your most successful people in your team and what made them so great. How can I help your team? What's the best of my skills that I can add value? Can you tell me something great about your company that I cannot find publicly? Yes, and just one quick note here on interviewing the interviewer. Ensure that you listen properly. Whenever they talk, ensure that you listen thoroughly to what they say, because this is something that it might not be very intuitive for you to understand if you're not used to listening to people. But I can guarantee you there's a whole industry of listening skills, of building listening skills. And I wanted to ensure that you really get this one proper. Then the C from the REACH stands from close the interviewer. And I know something that not many of you feel comfortable doing, but you should actually do it. It's something that sales roles would be pretty familiar with. But still, I believe that even in some roles, some software engineers, if you want, you could even go as far as to say, I really want this job, right? To ensure that you show your willingness to do the job and actually ask for the job if you want. Now, I know, it doesn't go very well for all types of roles, but I want you to consider this. Finally, the H comes from humanity. So really, maybe prepare a kind word for them in the opening or in the ending, but you really must convey the message that you're someone nice, a nice person. Last but not least, there are some unconscious questions that an HR manager has to answer for themselves that I'm just going to enumerate them. Results and achievements, process creativity or working style, relationships, aggressiveness and energy, and likability. So notice here they're closely linked with the REAP-RICH method, but actually I believe it's a great way to summarize on what they're actually looking for, even if they are not explicitly asking you about these things in a job interview. So hopefully you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.